Section number 6 from Letters from the Relentless Pursuit. This is Country and Blues, Stories of Love, Loss, and the American Highway. This was written December 2010. American music is the most important art form in mankind's history. Period. This statement alone probably makes me sound like a nationalistic redneck. And there might be some truth to that. Now, with that said, I can appreciate classical music. I don't understand it, but I like it. Same goes with reggae. I've been in Jamaica and I got a small taste as to what Bob Marley was talking about, and now I can better understand that genre. And let's call it what it is. Bands like the motherfucking Saints wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Englishmen like Tony Iommi and Lemmy Kilmister hammering out Black Sabbath and Motorhead albums. The fact is, our country, be it as it may, with all the hyper-conservative bullshit, ridiculous blind patriotism, and grandiose religious nonsense, has produced the best music and songwriters in the history of the world. Country, blues, American folk, bluegrass, and rock and roll is poetry that came from the soul of a unique breed of people that will never be replicated or duplicated. Hank Williams Sr. was the greatest songwriter ever. I was playing a show out in the middle of nowhere somewhere with Joe Buck. He told me a theory he had that made sense. Now I'm paraphrasing here, but this is the basic gist of it. He said that after Hank Williams, country music has only gotten worse. He said once Robert Johnson died, the blues could only go downhill from there. The best music ever played was that which we never heard because there was no one there to record it, market it, mass produce it, package it, and sell it to us in bulk. As Joe Buck said, when music became so accessible for us to listen to at our convenience is when the downfall began. I have heard the cliche often regurgitated among the outlaw country crowd that all you need is 3 chords and the truth. The truth is you don't even need that to play country and blues. Who needs chords when you can stomp and shout? And the fact is, most of these guys weren't telling the truth about much of anything. They never got that much pussy, they never won that many fights, and they couldn't drink that much whiskey. Now this album is called Country and Blues, but none of these songs are country, none of these songs are blues. I was born in 1981. That year, Metallica released the album Kill 'Em All. I have listened to that album a million times, and I hope to listen to it a million more. Considering that, it's not even worth a kid who was brought up on Slayer and Misfits trying to record a traditional country or blues album. In fact, as I stated above, I hold the belief that no one in modern times has the ability or the business to attempt such a task. I admit up front that I don't have the talent to even try to recreate what these legends created. These songs are only a tribute to classic American music. What you hear is the music of these legends distilled through the heart and soul of someone who was brought up playing punk rock and metal for a lot of years. However, I've always felt more highwayman than heavy metal. I am an addict, and I am mentally ill, and I am a songwriter. Yes, I know, another cliche. The drunken, heart-sick, rambling musician who can't fit in anywhere except for playing in smoky bars late at night. I know this is well-tread territory, but in my case, at least it's the truth. And the fact is, these character flaws do aid to creativity. With addiction comes narcissism, selfishness, and being self-absorbed. Us addicts are hypersensitive and believe that we are the center of the universe. We all usually think we're more important than we really are. This is all perfect for performing. Depression and anxiety. This causes one to be self-destructive, angry, and self-loathing. You're always lonely and always sad. You feel hopeless, on edge, and in pain. These traits tend to be good mix for dark, introspective song lyrics. It's glaringly obvious when people try to fake this in their songwriting. The truth is, those of us who have struggled with these problems are embarrassed of ourselves and we try to hide our true ugliness from the world. Eventually, us artistic types express our hurt through our work. Hank Williams III's Straight to Hell was the most important album released in decades. When I started recording this album, I set out to make the best album since Straight to Hell was released. This may sound like an arrogant statement to even mention anything I make in the same breath as this historical work, But until someone makes an album equal to it, we will be continuing to hear the same rehash by those of lesser talent over and over and over again. Unfortunately, Hank's sound and style have been ripped off so many times now that I can hardly stand to go to a show anymore. Here's a news flash to all the wannabes. It actually means something when the grandson of Hank Williams and the son of the owner of Curb Records says fuck Nashville, fuck Clear Channel, and fuck Music Row. On the flip side, when any other nobody in the so-called outlaw country genre takes a stand against commercial country, it means nothing and no one gives a fuck. As of recent, a lot of people have been on the anti-Hank bandwagon. It's ironic that these are the same people who are pathetically attempting to try to play his style and rip it off. Again, I hate to break it to all you, but wearing a cowboy hat and a Slayer shirt does not make you a fucking hellbilly. Fucking geeks. With that said, the sound of Straight to Hell was a heavily influence on this album, rather. The thick reverb and delay on the vocals, simplistic recording of the instruments, and the generally no frills attitude of the entire album are directly from listening to that album thousands of times. I know it's become less popular to admit Hank 3's influence, but the fact is that he broke a lot of barriers and he changed country music forever. Now, country and blues is made with 100% corn-fed talent. If I had $100,000 to dump in this album, I couldn't have brought what these very talented group of musicians brought to this release. What we lack in monetary resources we made up in creativity and positive energy. Some of those musicians are old friends, and some are now friends after the project. They all brought their A game and made this into something I could never have made on my own. I would wake up at night with these songs in my head. They were haunting me, tormenting me, feeling like this music was trying to kick its way outside of my skull. And when each of these players came in with almost no direction at all, they all played what had been ringing in my head for months and years. Each of them pouring a little piece of their soul into each bar of the song. Each of them making my song our song. I can't tell you how honored and privileged and eternally grateful I am to each of these players, and I hope one day I can return the favor. I'm really honored to be acquainted with so many talented people on a national level. However, one of the many reasons that this album will always be special to me is simply because a group of non-professional musicians, all which work day jobs, came together night after night in the dead of the Nebraska winter to shape an album that pays homage to vintage American music. All these musicians, I might add, did so for the compensation of pizza and booze. Again, who gives a fuck about Music Row or any stupid scene, man, when you got stuff like this? St. Christopher Webster lives to see age 30. As of February 13th, 2011, I will be 30 years old. I was always one of those kids that said, I don't want to live till I'm 30. I thought that age signified mediocrity and adultism. I figured if I made it to this age, my ideals would be crushed, my creative forces would be drained, and I would be relegated to being confined in suburban hell. I thought that age 30 was synonymous with boring marriage, a mundane career, and a sentence of a mortgage. Well, as many times in my life, I am now dead wrong. Dead, huh? Are you fucking kidding me? I'm just getting started. It took me living through a couple near-fatal crashes, numerous incidents of critical alcohol poisoning and overdose, several surgeries trying to patch it all back together, divorce, bankruptcy, and home foreclosure to get to this point. And I wouldn't have it any other way. It is another cliche and very melodramatic to say, but what does not kill you makes you stronger. That sounds pretty dramatic, but there is some truth to that. I really don't know if 30 years of this shit has made me stronger, but it has made me learn who I am. And I am one of the most fortunate, blessed people in the world. I find myself reflecting on the past 30 years and where I've come to and where I'm at now. As I write that, I'm sitting in a bar and I'm drinking Diet fucking Coke. That's a change, probably for the best. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a little hungover as I write this because Aaron and I had another late night recording session last night. I need to keep working on this whole addiction stuff. I don't foresee myself ever being completely void of vices. However, I want to try to keep these demons under control. I got some pretty substantial mental and physical health problems, and I'm still trying to overcome those. I'll have to get back to you on how this struggle plays out. Aside from that shit, as trite and played out as it may sound, I am truly blessed to have the best family and friends ever. In addition to that, I am humbly honored and fortunate to have the opportunity to have the professional career I care deeply within my heart and soul about. And of course, there is the music. I wrote my first song at the age of 10. 20 years later, I honestly feel more compelled and driven to create and express myself through this artistic medium than ever. When I get up on stage now as a solo artist, I feel more alive and energized than I ever have. This project allowed me to write the best lyrics I've ever written. With the help of a very talented producer and some gifted friends, I've had the ability to craft these songs that I never thought possible. Due to all these factors, I am not meeting age 30 with indifference. Instead, I am plunging headfirst into a new decade with a renewed sense of enthusiasm and adventure. Johnny Cash made some of his best music in the last 10 years of his life. I envy Mr. Cash not for his unparalleled talent and mythical reputation. Instead, I admire him tremendously because of the work he did in the twilight of his life. I pray to be so fortunate as him to be physically healthy and artistically inspired enough to have the same opportunity that he had. And in closing, let me talk about the girl back home. I've been told I play the role of the independent songwriter well. Well, the truth is, I am one of the most needy, insecure people I've ever met. After my divorce, I was convinced that I would never get involved with a woman again. In fact, I didn't want to. I couldn't take any more heartbreak, so I tried to distance myself and guard my fried out emotions. The unsettling truth was I'd already let someone else in. Now she's put up with my erratic behavior and looked past my glaring faults. We have been through more in 3 years, good and bad, than most couples will go through in 30. She says that I put the music ahead of her, and the sad reality is she is right. Like I said, playing and performing is the most addictive, destructive drug anyone can do. This pursuit, I find myself as a juggernaut that destroys everything in its path. Even things that you care about, even things that you love, even parts of you. We've gone to counseling. Fucking fuck that. We've had some long talks and some epic fights. We've kissed and made up. If there's anything that I would change about myself is quit being such a selfish, ungrateful significant other. Again, we'll have to see how that comes along in the future. One thing at a time, I guess. So I'll see you on the road. I'm proud of what we did with this album. However, I write songs for live performance, not for the studio. I once heard a well-traveled musician put it best when he described his albums as an advertisement for his live gigs. I totally buy into that philosophy. Speaking from an addict's perspective, there is no drug more addictive than playing in front of an audience. Besides sex, that's pretty awesome. It took me this long to get into a place where I could tour for long periods of time and support myself halfway decently. That is a change. Due to my job with the school system, I now have enough time that I can go tour and still work and get a paycheck when I get back. So here we go, America. So this is about it for right now. I probably should get out of this bar before I start drinking. Oh well. Who am I kidding? I got a bottle of whiskey waiting for me when I get out of here. As an old convict once told me, if I was supposed to be an angel, I'd have been born with wings. Now I know I ain't never gonna be no angel or get no wings, but I'll always be a motherfucking saint.